to Bitcoin.com's The Weekly. I'm Graham Stone, joined by David Sencil. Let's get into the weekly recap of the biggest stories in the Bitcoin and cryptoverse. David, kick us off.
All right. Well, as everyone is probably aware who's watching this, last week's price action, TLDR crypto down, gold up, equities meh in the middle somehow. But let's start with crypto. So the crypto price action, Bitcoin bled out the entire week, and this culminated on Thursday or Friday with the market kind of retesting those stomach churning wicks of the flash crash. Um, the price then pushed below the flash crash wick to around 104 on Friday, $104,000. It bounced from that over the weekend, but as of right now, it looks like it might be rolling over, and we're going to retest the new wick, which pierced 104K. I don't know how you feel about this, Graham, but I think we are going to be retesting this new wick going forward. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I think it's more likely than not. I still, we can talk. Let's talk more about this on Token Narratives on Friday. Crypto Twitter is sort of up in arms about Chris Berniski's post, basically saying that it's over. I think we can get into more details about that later in the week. But as this is our weekly news recap, let's keep it on just the facts, sir.
Just the facts. Okay, well, sticking with the facts, the crypto ETFs, as you'd imagine from the price action I just mentioned, experienced a poor week. There was around 600 million in outflows last week. Yeesh. Bitcoin ETFs were hit harder than the ETH ETFs, with approximately 366 million in total redemptions. The Bitcoin ETFs recorded 4 consecutive days of outflows, making this one of the worst weeks since early summer. Ether ETFs mirrored that downturn, although losing slightly less, around 232 million across 6 major funds for outflows of the week. Not great in crypto and in the kind of crypto adjacent equity realm. However, gold and silver continued to have an amazing October, or you could call it the gold and silver Uptober, reaching record territory before cooling off over the weekend. Gold surged to $4,376 per ounce. It briefly touched 4,400 on some exchanges before pulling back to 4,253. Silver peaked at $54.55 before uh, easing easing up about 5% to 51.91 per ounce. Very, very, very strong. Why is gold doing well? We all know the normal reasons: geopolitical tensions between the US and China. People see gold as a hedge. The weakening dollar, the so called debasement trade, which I've seen some people on other podcasts start to talk about, although I would say we've done it first. Yes. Um, so, yeah, the debasement trade, inflation fears, specifically around silver. There's been this meme of silver supply crunch. I've been hearing about this for years. I guess this is somehow a narrative that's being used to explain the recent surge in silver prices. Anyway, despite pulling back a little bit over the weekend, gold has achieved 9 consecutive weeks of gains. Right, this is the longest winning streak in years. Analysts note that gold has never reached 10 straight weeks of growth. So, is next week going, or is this week going to be a historic week in that regard? Or, like every other time before, are we going to finally see uh, a weekly pullback in gold?
Yeah, and if gold pulls back, what will Bitcoin do? I think that's the big question for people listening to this show. my personal opinion, and we can talk about this more as well on the token narratives at the end of the week, but is that it will Bitcoin will sort of catch up with gold.
You're really
So,
flogging token narratives this week, Graham. I like it.
oh yeah. All right. So yeah. Okay. Have we hit the bottom here? Polymarket says no. So let me just bring up the Polymarket story. Polymarket says we have not hit the bottom. There's a 69% chance, again, with that auspicious number, that Bitcoin dips below 100K before the end of 2026, according to the Polymarket betters. Meanwhile, this is quite interesting. There's some new analysis published by Polymarket itself, but leveraging data from Dune. Some new analysis showing that Polymarket predictions are 91% accurate 1 month out from the resolution. So if you believe that, then and we're saying that bettors are currently saying there's a 69% chance that Bitcoin will drop below 100K before the end of the year, then it does seem likely that that will happen. The wisdom of the crowd has
Yeah.
spoken.
I mean, I could see this this recent price action leading to a wick below 100K for sure. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. The poly market stuff came out over the weekend. There were some really good threads on it on crypto Twitter. I can't wait to get into that on token narratives this Friday. But seriously,
Don't miss it.
there's a really cool stuff with this. It's not as straightforward as poly market good on predictions. There's some nuance to this, and I guess what's it called, the mid curve meme does hold, right? Like you have the low IQ and the high IQ saying poly market's good on predictions. And then you'd have the mid curve being like, actually, that 91% prediction accurate rate is not exactly what it seems. But yeah, get into that later.
Yeah, definitely the devil's in the details. Let's move on to another big story, which is that the U.S. Treasury has announced a seizure of 127,000 BTC. Now, this is Bitcoin that's been seized from the Prince Group, and it's related. The Prince Group is now has been identified as basically a criminal organization. They have dealings with slave rings, pig butchering investment scams. That's like where you basically try to what is it, like kind of a romance scam type thing, where you try to convince someone to send you some Bitcoin related to, I don't know. You just you just lie to someone about who you are actually, and eventually try to just extract money out of them. There's a network of people doing this, and apparently, according to OFAC and FinCEN, the Prince Group is behind it. They actually seized this Bitcoin more than a year ago, but they're just announcing it now. And interestingly, so as part of this, the authorities in the U.S. used the Patriot Act to block Huoine Group, which is a Cambodia-based financial conglomerate, from the U.S. financial system. So a lot of this Prince Group dealings are in Cambodia, and yeah, there's a ringleader, this guy named Wei, oh sorry, Chen Z, and
What a
he
name.
there's Bitcoin mining, a Laos-based Bitcoin mining operation is involved in this. Basically, a huge, one of the biggest seizures of Bitcoin, well, since the Silk Road seizures. And with these seizures, we sort of have some new rankings now as to how much Bitcoin is held by nation states around the world. So with this additional 127,000 Bitcoin, according to Arkham Intelligence, the U.S. government could be sitting on 325,000 BTC, which is a stash worth more than $34 billion, or roughly 1.5% of the entire Bitcoin supply. However, again, another plug to token narratives, because we discussed this with Les Borsai, who's sort of an expert in the Bitcoin seizure space. Um, yeah, on paper, the U.S. Marshals Service actually officially oversees just 29,000 BTC. This is obviously a big difference than what Arkham Intelligence flag wallets are suggesting. Again,
But
they're suggesting it's 325,000 BTC. Go ahead, David.
well, yeah, we specifically asked Les this on
Mm-hmm.
Token Narratives last week. We said, uh, how much Bitcoin does the government have? How much Bitcoin do you think the government has? And he said, again, this is pretty good timing. He said Arkham is probably has the a very good, very accurate account to it. So he plugged Arkham. Here, Arkham is saying it's about 325K BTC. Um, that seems reasonable to me in that regard. Again, I really would suggest people listen to that section of Token Narratives on the seized Bitcoin stuff. This guy was awesome talking about it, and um, it's pretty impressive, his knowledge, and it's a little scary how fragmented uh, the U.S. system is for seizing crypto assets, digital assets, but then also like how they hold it, how they record it. Um, it's
Yeah.
just all over the place. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, and on that note, we actually have another story here published 4 days ago, which is basically just a call by Senator Cynthia Lummis to who's she's advocating for formalizing the process of seizing Bitcoin and crypto assets related to criminal endeavors. She's advocating for a formalizing of that process by passing comprehensive digital asset laws to empower enforcement, protect innovation, and manage seized cryptocurrencies responsibly. So some politicians out there are onto this and saying like more formalized process is needed. Now, just moving back to the rankings of which nation states hold the most Bitcoin. Again, according to Arkham Intelligence, the U.S. 325K BTC. China is speculated to hold 190,000 BTC, so about half or a little more than half of what the US does. And then we have the UK at 61K BTC. And then, so the top three, those are the top three. And then significantly, an order of magnitude less in terms of holdings, you have the UAE Royal Group, which is a conglomerate of around 60 companies tied to Abu Dhabi's ruling family. They have around 6,500 BTC. Bhutan, which is known for mining BTC using its hydro resources, has a similar amount, 6.3 thousand BTC. And then lastly, we should touch on the Lazarus group, of course, the North Korean hacking group. They held 14,000 BTC not too long ago, March 2025. Remember that there was that huge hack. And they currently, according to Arkham, hold just 804 BTC. So they've dispersed their stolen Bitcoin and turned it into other assets in some manner or another. So that's the rankings.
Yeah,
Anything else to
and
note there, David? Yeah.
well, there's a couple things. I think the first thing to note is that China's BTC. My guess is this is probably from mining, uh, Bitcoin mining, and just a quick anecdote. The reason that China probably got out of crypto and specifically Bitcoin via mining was because people in China were using mining as a way to get their money out of China. So they would buy a bunch of mining machines, they would mine Bitcoin, and then they would transfer the Bitcoin to anywhere else in the world, thus being able to get their money outside of the Great Yuan Wall of China, and so that's why they put the kibosh on that. I guess the government seized a lot of the Bitcoin mining or mining equipment or something like that. I don't know how they got so much Bitcoin, but that would be my guess in that regard.
All right. Now let's just wrap it up here with some banking stories. So there have been some pretty major moves here in the U.S. banking sector relating to crypto. We've got Erebor Bank. So 4 days ago, it was announced that Erebor Bank, which is a bank backed by Palmer Luckey, Peter Thiel, and Joe Lonsdale, they got the official head from the OCC. That's the Office of the Currency Comptroller, I believe, to launch a fully digital national bank serving crypto, AI, and defense startups. So it's being framed as the first pro innovation bank of the Trump era. And also, it's framed as a direct response to Silicon Valley Bank's collapse and the regulatory chill that followed that. So, sort of a a resurgence here of banks focusing, or at least allowed to participate in the crypto movement. And then on that note, we also have Sony Bank. So Sony's a bank. Obviously, it's a Japanese bank, but they have a U.S. arm, and they have applied for a U.S. trust charter to issue stable coins and offer custody services in their U.S. entity called this new U.S. entity, which will be called Connectia Trust. And if approved, that it would join Coinbase, Circle, and Paxos under the OCC's watch. And people are saying this could help push the stablecoin market past $400 billion in assets under management next year. So, taken together, I think these sort of moves in the banking sector signal that, yeah, crypto banking in America isn't dead. It's just sort of been waiting for a friendlier political and regulatory climate.
Yeah, it should be noted that both of these banks are quite young. Um, Erebor Bank apparently is like 1 year old, but even Sony Bank is only about 24 years old, and that's in Japan. So it makes sense why these banks are trying to get in on this action because they have to move faster and innovate, unlike the old Web 2 TradFi incumbents.
Yeah, they have to, and they can, I guess.
Yes.
Um, all right, David. Anything else to note here before we wrap it up for the week?
No, excited for this week. Let's see what happens, and looking forward to getting into more of this info on like prediction markets. And I mean, I think the price action this week could be quite entertaining. Let's say that.
All right. So yeah, keep your finger on the buy button if you're looking to scoop up a little Bitcoin, perhaps on discount. But yeah, have a great week, everyone. Have a great week, David. We'll see you on Friday for Token Narratives.